Hey there, fourth graders. So last week we learned about Susan B. Anthony and how she was arrested for voting in a presidential election. Today we're actually going to read an article that talks about her trial of when she was tried for voting in the presidential election. So it's called Order in the Court. And then the subheading here is, did Susan B. Anthony commit a crime by voting? So your choices are, you can follow along with me, so I'll be reading it out loud. I also have the article PDF just linked there on the Canvas page. If you click the little magnifying glass, it'll make it big, and then you can read it on your own. But either way works great for me. So just pick which way you'd prefer, and let's go for it. Order in the court. Did Susan B. Anthony commit a crime by voting? The courtroom is packed and spectators' voices fill the air. Supporters of the defendant are seated among opponents and the merely curious. And notice that defendant's in a yellow highlighted word, and so it has it here in this words to know box, this text feature right here. So a defendant is the person on trial. So in this case, Susan B. Anthony is the defendant because she's the one being put on trial. Scattered throughout the crowd are some influential people, including Millard Fillmore, a former U.S. president. Everyone knows this will be no ordinary trial. The buzz fades as the district attorney, defense lawyer, and defendant take their seats. The date is June 17th, 1873, and the trial of Susan B. Anthony is about to begin. What was her crime? In November 1872, Anthony, three of her sisters, and several other women in Rochester, New York, demanded that they be allowed to register as voters in the U.S. presidential election. Polling site officials reluctantly did so. There was only one problem. At that time, women had no legal right to vote in New York or any other state. But on November 5th, Election Day, Anthony and 13 other women cast votes anyway. A few weeks later, Anthony, already famous throughout the country, was arrested. That was okay with her because she wanted a test case. If she could convince a jury that she had a right under the U.S. Constitution to vote, she would be found not guilty. Then women across the nation would win the right to vote. The well-educated daughter of Quaker parents, Anthony believed in the rights of citizenship. She had been an abolitionist, opposed to the ownership of fellow human beings. In 1865, the 13th Amendment became law, ending slavery. Then, in 1868, the 14th Amendment guaranteed African American citizenship. It says that no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction legal authority the equal protection of the laws. As far as Anthony was concerned, that protection applied to women as well as to ex-slaves. But society disagreed. Women, whatever their skin color, were still denied the right to vote. The trial, day 1. When the trial began, U.S. District Attorney Richard Crowley charged Anthony with wrongdoing regardless of the 14th Amendment. Whatever Miss Anthony's intentions may have been, she did not have a right to vote, he said. Only men could do so, Crowley declared, and on the 5th day of November 1872, Miss Susan B. Anthony was a woman. Many spectators laughed. Even jury members, all of whom were white men, smiled. When his turn came to speak, Henry Selden, Anthony's lawyer, said, "Your Honor, gentlemen of the jury, the defense wishes to agree, that Miss Susan B. Anthony is indeed a woman." Selden went on to argue that Anthony should not be on trial. If the same act had been done by her brother, it would have been not only innocent, but honorable and laudable, worthy of praise. But having been done by a woman, it is said to be a crime. After both lawyers had their say, Judge Ward Hunt did something unexpected. He didn't allow Anthony to testify in her own defense. The 14th Amendment does not give women a right to vote, he said. By voting, Anthony had violated the law. To the jury, he said, "I therefore direct you to find a verdict of guilty." Selden protested, but the judge ordered the court clerk to record a guilty verdict, even though the jury had not voted. The spectators were outraged. Not everyone supported women's suffrage, but most agreed that Anthony had been denied her right to a fair trial. The trial, day 2. The next day before sentencing, Judge Hunt asked the usual question, "Has the prisoner anything to say as to why the sentence should not be pronounced?" "Yes, Your Honor," Anthony replied. "I have many things to say. For in your ordered verdict of guilty, you have trampled underfoot every vital principle of our government. My natural rights, my civil rights, my political rights are all alike ignored." Hunt kept interrupting, but Anthony continued to speak. Finally, Hunt had reached his limit. "The court orders the prisoner to sit down," he commanded. "It will not allow another word." He sentenced Anthony to pay a fine of $100 and the costs of prosecution. "May it please your honor," she replied, "I shall never pay a dollar of your unjust penalty, and I shall earnestly and persistently continue to urge all women that resistance to tyranny is obedience to God." Surviving the shock, Anthony kept that promise. She never paid the fine and never stopped fighting for women's rights. She was already a famous public speaker, but the courage she had shown at her trial won her new respect. An 1873 editorial commented on that trial. "If it is a mere question of who has got the best of it, Miss Anthony is still ahead," it stated. "She has voted. The American Constitution has survived the shock. Fining her $100 does not rub on the fact that 14 women voted and went home, and the world jogged on as before." Susan B. Anthony did not live to see her dream fulfilled. The 19th Amendment guaranteeing women's right to vote did not become law until 1920, 14 years